Hello friends, I am Avnish Tiwari. In this session, we will discuss about data security. Data confidentiality, data integrity and data authentication are three important security parameters by which one may achieve data security. Let us first discuss about these three important security properties. After that, we will use some cryptography primitives, particularly symmetric cryptography primitive by which one can achieve data security with the help of data confidentiality, integrity and data authentication. Now, let us talk about data confidentiality. First of all, we will discuss about data confidentiality. So, what is data confidentiality? Confidentiality means information is accessible to authorized entities only. In other words, unauthorized parties should not be able to learn anything about the information or data. There are several applications where you can find that data confidentiality is one of the most important requirements. For example, if you are storing data in third party software, you want your data to be protected and you do not want your data to be accessible by others. Only those who are authorized will be able to access your data. Suppose you are sending one file to your friend over a public channel, then you would want to make sure that any other party than you or your friend should not be able to get any information about that file. Now, there are many ways by which we can achieve this. We will come to that later. That is data integrity. Now, let us talk about data integrity. It is a process of making sure that the data is not going to be altered. It also includes detecting when the data is altered or tampered with. For this, we have many applications today. For example, if you are buying something online from an e-commerce website, and for that you are sending credit card or debit card information. Now, if someone has altered your debit card or credit card information, then your bank will reject your payment request. Now, what we can see is that if the credit card information has been altered by any other party or because of communication error, then the credit card issuer bank will reject the transaction. We can take another example of a transcript of any course which is issued by your university. Now, if someone is modifying it or changing something on the transcript, then that transcript is considered as invalid because the integrity of that transcript is lost. So, how can we achieve integrity? We will come to that later part of this session, this lecture. Data authentication. Now, let us discuss about the third part, which is data authentication. Authentication is the process by which one can identify the legitimacy of an entity or the identification of a party or the source of that entity. You will find that authentication is one of the most important requirements in a lot of applications today. For example, if you want to withdraw cash from an ATM, then you are required to insert your ATM card in the machine and then you need to provide a PIN. If your credit card PIN and are both found to be valid, only then you will be able to withdraw cash from your account. Similarly, your transcript would have signatures of your university authorities, and if you modify the transcript, the authenticity is lost, then it will not be accepted by other party. Who would check the legitimacy of the signatures? That is the question. So, how can we achieve data authenticity? We will discuss about that in later part of the session in symmetric cryptography, encryption, decryption, which is one of the most important primitives. Then we have pseudo random functions as another important primitive. And by using pseudo random function and one symmetric key, there is another primitive which is known as message authentication code. Now, let us try to achieve data confidentiality using encryption and decryption. There are broadly two types of symmetric key encryption algorithms. One is block cipher and the other one is stream cipher. In block cipher, one block is encrypted at a time, whereas in a stream cipher, one byte or one bit is encrypted. For both of these two types of ciphers, one important requirement is that both sender and receiver have to have knowledge of the common symmetric key. Let us assume that the common symmetric key is shared between the sender and the receiver, or the encryptor and the decryptor. After that, the encryptor and the decryptor can use either block cipher or stream cipher. If block cipher is used for data confidentiality, then there are many standard block ciphers which are being used in real world applications, namely Advanced Encryption Sender or AES, SSS, etc. In stream ciphers, RC4 is the best cipher that is widely used today, or one can use linear feedback shift register kind of stream cipher. Now, let us see how data confidentiality can be achieved using these two types of ciphers. Let us consider that Alice and Bob are two people which are located at different places. Alice wants to send a message in a confidential manner. So, Alice will encrypt the message in a symmetric key, and the symmetric key is shared with Bob by some means. After encryption, Alice will send the encrypted message, which can be ciphered over a secure channel or a public channel. After receiving that message cipher, Bob will decrypt it using the same symmetric key, and after decryption, Bob will get to know about the message. So, here we can see how two people are able to communicate in a confidential manner without any other party being able to learn anything about the message. Now, let us consider a simple example of a bitwise exclusive OR operation for data encryption. Here we have a message which is a string of the bits. We have a key which is also a string of bits. Both of these them are same length. If we will perform an exclusive OR operation for the message and the key, then we will get a cipher which would also be of the same length like that of this message and key. Looking at the cipher, it will be practically very difficult to understand the meaning of the message, right. Now, when we design any encryption algorithm like bitwise exclusive or any advanced encryption standard or data encryption standard or RC4 one, which is one of the most important requirement is the security of the cipher. Now, if we consider the bitwise exclusive OR encryption, we can see that the security is weak and it is not up to the mark. Why? Now, here one potential threat is vulnerability. If a person knows both the message and the cipher, then he or she can calculate what is the key, because message and cipher combination will basically give the key, right. So, in such a situation, that person can perform encryption or decryption. So, in short, this bitwise OR encryption where the key is static is not secure against non-plain text data. Any modern cipher which is used in real world applications must be proven secure against known plain text data. Now, next is how we can achieve data integrity. A simple way to achieve data integrity is that you can use any pseudo random function, in particular cryptography hash function. A cryptography hash function is a function that can take any arbitrary length of input and it outputs a fixed length of a string. So, we can give any length of input and we can get a fixed length of output, and that is why this kind of function is also known as message digest function. So, our output, our input, it can be of any length and output is a digest of a stream of a fixed length. Now, this cryptographic hash function should satisfy two important properties. The first one is that the hash function must be pre-image resistance. It is the property of being one way. So, if the digest is given, one will be able to tell anything about the input. So, if we perform hash function on a message m and the digest is 128 bit. So, from that 128 bit digest one will be able to tell anything about the message. So, that is pre-image resistance property or one-wayness property. The second property is collision resistance property. It says that you will not find any two messages M1 and M2 such that the hash of M1 is equal to the hash of M2. So, it is practically difficult or an impractical problem to find any two messages that will give the same hash value or the same digest value. Some commonly used hash function or data integrity in SHA family are SHA1 where digest size is 160 bits, SHA 256 where the digest size is 256 bits, SHA 512 where the digest size is 512 bits, or one can also use MD5. Similarly, you will have other different kinds of cryptographically secure hash algorithms. Using hash algorithms, one can easily achieve data integrity. For example, if you have a pen drive, then you can also compute the digest of all files on it. Suppose the digest size of all files on your pen drive was 128 bit. The next day when you see that pen drive again, you can check whether any file has been altered or not. How? You can again you would compute the hash of all files in your pen drive and then you will get a digest which you can compare with your previous digest. If both of them match, then the files have not been altered. If you see that there is any difference and the files are not matching, then you can understand that some file or some data stored in the pen drive has been changed. So, in this way you can easily check whether the integrity of a file is lost or not. Another interesting primitive that can be designed with the help of pseudo random function and using symmetric key is message authentication code. Using message authentication code, one can achieve data authentication. Now, suppose Alice has a symmetric key which is shared with Bob and she wants to send one message and Bob has to ensure that the message has not been modified in transit. Show message authentication should be provided to Bob. Here Alice will use a similar hash function or any pseudo random function and then it can compute a message authentication code. So, that function will take two inputs, one is message and the other is key. Then that code will be computed and after that Alice will send message along with the code. After receiving message and the code, Bob will verify whether the message was modified in transit or not. So, Bob will again compute the message authentication code using the same algorithm and using the same symmetry key and then it will basically verify whether the received MAC is same as the sent MAC. If they differ, the Bob will not accept the message or he will say that the message authentication is not provided. If they match, then authenticity of the message is proved. So, it is a very efficient way to achieve message authentication. You will find different primitives. For example, one can use simple hash like SHA family or MD5. One can also use CBC, MAC or cipher block chaining mode of operation. And one can also go with HMAC, which is also known as keyed MAC. However, one thing that we have to make sure is that when we are using any pseudo random function or any message authentication code, then whether the security is going to be achieved or not. For example, if you look at CBC MAC, it works in a way such that it will continue encryption operation till the last block of the message is there. The MAC is computed after the encryption of the last block and that MAC has a fixed length of string of bits. In this case, the message and the key are two inputs of the function. Usually the key is prefixed. It is given initially and then the first block of message is given as input and after the last block of message, the message is provided. So, in that case one can tamper with this kind of message. authentication code. How? It will find two parts of the message and there is a third message, and for that message the message authentication code is going to be the same. In this case, it would be the original message for which the message authentication code was provided. Then the adversary will find another pair of message by which the same authentication code is produced. So, in that case, in place of the original message, the third message is going to be replaced, and the receiver will not be able to verify whether it was replaced or it was the original message that was sent by the sender. Now, how can one avoid vulnerability in message authentication code? One has to simply avoid secret prefixed message. If key is before the message, then it will not be provide security. It will not provide security. Similarly, if there is a secret suffix, then the message is appended with the key, and that should also be avoided. In other words, we have to incorporate both secret prefix and secret suffix. For example, key then message then key then message then key, particularly in CBC MAC. So, if someone is using an optional encryption where the actual key and message length will be included, we will derive another key, and the key should be used for message authentication code. Full length of the message is going to be another important factor. If we include that, then CBC MAC will provide the intended security. Otherwise, one can opt for HMAC. It is designed in such a way that it has both secret prefix and secret suffix. So, here if you look at the design of the HMAC, you can see that it considers key first, then message, then key. So, prefix and suffix, both components have been considered. It is using both inner hash and outer hash and the derivation of key along with the padded zeros and padded ones. So, inner pad and outer pad both have also been considered. HMAC is considered as one of the most secure message authentication codes because it considers the potential presence of threat in secret suffix and secret prefix. So, it tries to avoid those threats, and at the same time the key is also derived from original key along with padded zeros and padded ones, and it uses both inner hash and outer hash. With all this, HMAC can avoid the existing threats by which an adversary may try to fault the message authentication code. Now, it is up to the application developer or application provider to use which primitive for what security property. So, for authentication using symmetric key, one can go by HMAC kind of message authentication code. For data integrity, one can go by SHA family, and for data confidentiality, one can use advanced encryption standards if block cipher is preferred, or one can use RC4 if stream cipher is preferred. To summarize, for achieving data security with respect to data confidentiality, data integrity or data authentication, one can use symmetric key cryptography primitives by which data security can be achieved.